you feel like time is out of your control and you worry, how am I going to get all of the things done that I need to do? If you do, you're not alone. It's a very common complaint of busy people. I'm Dr. Ellen, and I'm going to talk about some important strategies to help you use time more efficiently and effectively. So let's talk about how we can make our time more of a friend than a challenge in our lives. And first, let's talk about, why is time important? Well, time is a limited resource. We all have 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We can't get more time than that. So it's really important and valuable for us to discuss how we can use our time the best. And I think that we've been given this time in our lives, and that it really behooves us to try to determine, how can we use our time on earth the best? How can we have the biggest impact in our lives, with our family, with our friends, and for ourselves in achieving what we want? So I think studying time and looking at how we can use our time better is important. Time is also a trigger for stress for many people. It's a common source of stress. So I think that if you investigate how you can use your time better, it can help answer the question is, how can I get rid of some of the stress in my life? How can you lower stress? You can do that. One of the strategies is to use your time better. So again, there are a number of really good reasons why thinking about the way you use time is going to be useful. Most books and videos often call it and talk about time management. And I like to use the term time optimization better. And again, the reason is we all have that same 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can't manage time. You can't get more time in your life. What you can do is change your relationship with time, change how you understand time, change how you use time. So that's important. And again, the other reason to really think about how you use time is not just a clock on the wall with numbers, not just a science, not just logic, but time is emotion to many of us, and it's stress. And managing and thinking about how you use time better can make a big impact on your days and how you feel during your days, and on lowering that stress level. So let's dig in, and I'm going to look at my list now. So I'm going to start with number one, the number one strategy. And that has to do with how we talk about our long to-do lists. We're always talking, I have so much on my to-do list. So strategy number one is to remember to transfer the items on your to-do list to your calendar. And the reason is, there's a few reasons, but one is we often think to ourselves, when am I going to get all my things done? And if you take your items on your list and transfer them to your calendar, then you don't have to worry, when am I going to get them done, because you have a plan for it. So again, having a plan can be reassuring. And the other thing is, when you transfer it to your calendar, you no longer have to keep it on your mind. Very often we think, well, I'm working on this now, and later I have to write a report, and I have to return a phone call, I have to write an email. We keep these things on our mind because we're afraid we're going to forget them. And so we just rotate and rotate these things, and we stay on the hamster wheel of stress because we keep thinking about all the things we have to do. But if you transfer it to your calendar, you don't have to think so much about it anymore, because you don't need it on your mind. It's on your calendar. That brings me to strategy number 2, and that is don't check your cell phone and your email 16 times a day or even more. And the data is staggering, the number of times that people check emails and their cell phones. So my suggestion is think to yourself, how often during my workday do I really need to check my emails and my cell phone? And for a lot of people, it's once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and maybe once before you leave work at the end of the day. And you don't have to keep going back to checking your emails. A lot of people will think while they're doing a task, and if they finish a task, well, let me just go and check my emails and see what came in. But the risk of doing that is when you check your emails, then you say, oh, well, I got a few emails. Let me just read them quickly. And you think, well, I'm just going to read this one, just going to read that one. I'm just going to open these 2 attachments. I'm just going to answer 1 or 2 emails. And before you know, you've spent an hour on your emails, and you look at your calendar and you think, well, that was an hour that I was supposed to be working on my report. So again, cell phones and emails can really become a distraction. And when you keep checking into your emails regularly and responding to them, you're working on other people's agendas, on other people's time frames, not your own, because they sent the email when it was good for them. And if you're answering it and you keep checking regularly during the day, you're looking for other people's agendas and other people's routines. So you should really set a routine in your own mind. How often do I really have to check my emails? And then stick to it. Don't get distracted and get lured in between your other activities and say, I'm just going to check my email briefly, because it's never really brief, as many of you will probably agree with me. It usually tends to take longer. And by the time we come back to our focused activity, we don't even realize how much time we've taken away from our calendar. So again, just check it when you've planned to. And the next strategy has to do with something that I've noticed in clients that I've worked with. And I've noticed that transition points between tasks is often a big stress factor, is often a stressor. We think when we finished one activity, well, what do I have to do next? What do I have to do later? And I have to follow up on this task. I have to write a few things that I need to do as a result of my meeting. And is there anything urgent that came in that I have to do before I start my next task? So again, those transition points between tasks are often stressful and they take time. So I suggest to the clients that I work with, for a few activities during your workday, not every activity, but maybe for a couple during the day, leave a buffer time in your calendar. So let's say you've scheduled a phone call that you think is going to be 30 minutes. Put that on your calendar for 45 minutes. That gives you a little breathing room, literally between tasks, to take some deep breaths and relax for a moment, to decide if you need to follow up on something from the phone call that you've had. You have a little buffer time, a little extra padding time. And if the phone call runs late, and we know often our activities run a little bit later than we expect, you have that extra padding time that you don't have to be stressed and think, I have to move on to my next activity, and I'm really going to be stressed now. So again, adding that padding time does 2 things. One, it helps you with the time, with the numbers, with the logic of handling time so that you don't fall behind in your day. And the other thing it does is it helps you manage the stress of your day. It addresses the 2 factors of time. So I think it's really useful to consider adding that buffer time that padding time to some activities. And that brings us to our next strategy. And that has to do with the productivity rule referred to as Parkinson's law. And that law tells us that work will expand to fill the time you allot to it. Again, that's really important. So I'm going to repeat it. Work will expand to fill the time you allot to it. So if you have to write a report and you put it on your calendar for 2 hours, you know during those 2 hours that you can pace yourself and you have 2 hours to get that report done. If instead of putting 2 hours on your calendar, if you put a half a day on your calendar, then you'll spend that half a day working on that same report that you might have worked on for 2 hours if you had listed it for 2 hours. And if you have to write a report and you know it's due in 2 weeks and you don't give yourself a time limit, then you're probably going to be writing it and going back and checking it during those 2 weeks. Again, that assignment is going to expand to fill the time you give it. And if you give it unlimited time, it's going to take unlimited space. Whereas if you give it a time limit, a deadline, it helps you stay on track with that task, as well as leaving you the rest of your time for other activities. So because of this strategy and this rule, I suggest, first of all, that you start to think of your tasks with an associated time frame. So on your to-do list, you may have some activities. And I'd like you to start thinking about how long will this take and put it on and block it in time on your calendar. And if there are activities that you wouldn't ordinarily think of having a time frame or know what the time frame is, I'd like to suggest you create some even artificial deadlines, just again to keep you on track, to keep your productivity focused and moving ahead, just so you don't have infinite times with tasks. And so you stay on track with your time. Again, artificial deadlines can be your friend in staying on time and in handling time effectively. So that brings us to our next strategy, and that is know your energy cycles, otherwise known as your circadian rhythms. And I talk about that in detail with my clients, and I help them figure that out. But in general, you might want to think, are you more of a morning person, a day person, or are you more of a night person? And what parts of your day do you feel most energetic, most active? So a lot of books on time and a lot of videos tell people to do your hardest task first thing in the morning. And I think that's really not solid advice to give to everybody. It's good advice to give to people who are morning people or who have a good burst of energy in the morning. But I'm a night person. And if I tried to do my most difficult task the first thing in the morning, it would be very stressful for me. I like to take something reasonably easy that I can get started on my workday to kind of shift into gear. And I'll pick something more challenging, maybe mid-morning, but not the first thing in my morning. But if you're a morning person, that may work really well for you. And in addition, if I need to do something that requires creativity on my part, I know that I'm most creative in the evening. So many people who are my clients or who watch me on YouTube know that in addition to my work YouTube channel, I have a music channel that I use for the music that I write. I write music and lyrics and I sing my songs. And when I'm working on them, I do that at night because I know that I am most creative. I feel most free in the evening. That's when I can get creative work done the best. So if your work or your hobbies entail something that uses your creative tasks, when in your day would that be best for you to do? And again, I encourage you to think about your energy cycles, your circadian rhythms. And if this is something you'd like to work on with me, feel free to schedule an appointment with me. It is something that I do work on with clients who are interested in it. And it's a very interesting reflection on how you can use your time better. So that leads us to our next strategy. So here's a question. How many of you multitask? Raise your hand if you multitask. And most of us have tried to multitask. It's just natural to think, I'm so busy. If I do two things at once, I can get more done. But here's what the research shows. The research shows that our brain isn't really wired to multitask. And what we call multitasking, when we want to work on multiple things at one time, is really sequential tasking. That's what our brain really does. It doesn't work on two things at once. It jumps back and forth between activities. And when we mean to be working on two activities at the same time, that's not what happens. Again, we go back and forth. And that causes a lot of stress. It causes us, there's a lag as we go back and forth. Our brain takes time transferring the context of what we're doing. That's why sometimes when we multitask, we think, what was I up to? And we kind of lose track of what we were up to. Because again, we're not really multitasking. We're jumping back and forth, or we're task switching is another term used for it. And it's not really an efficient way of working. The research shows that when we multitask, it actually takes us more time, we're less productive, and we make more errors. And they've done research with people who think they're good at multitasking. And the research shows that people who think they're good at multitasking make as many or more errors as people who know they're not good at multitasking. And I think people who say they're good at multitasking just are really feeling they're used to multitasking, so they think they're good at it. But again, the research shows more errors, more stress, less efficiency and productivity. So I tell my clients, try to avoid multitasking and try to do what's called singular tasking. Focus on one activity, and when you're done with it, go to your next activity and focus on that activity. And when you're done with that, go to your next activity. Practice singular focusing. And focusing is really important. That brings us to our next strategy, and that is that time and focus are related. So if you have 1 hour and you're really well focused, you're not distracted, you're focused, you're thinking really clearly on the task you're doing, think about your productivity for that versus if you have an hour and you're really distracted and you have a lot on your mind and you're stressed and you can't keep your mind focused on your one topic because you have a lot of distractions. Think about how much less you get done, how much more stressed you are under that circumstance. So time is really related, and time and productivity is very much related to focus and stress. And if you're having trouble staying focused, if you feel very distracted when you're trying to work, it may be worth it to investigate how you can focus better, to think about maybe even trying 5 or 10 minutes at a time just to start out with. I'm going to try and focus without getting distracted, without bringing in other thoughts. Or to practice other activities like meditation, where you're used to singular focusing, and see if that can help translate over to your other activities in life. And if this is a topic that you're more interested in, I did a video that I posted on YouTube in how to focus better recently. So you're welcome to go and look at that video for if you'd like more details on how to improve your ability to focus. I also did a video recently that I posted on YouTube about multitasking. So if you'd like more information on that also, you're welcome to look at those videos. Or if you'd like to discuss those topics with me as well, you're welcome to schedule an appointment with me, and we can discuss that more. So that brings us to the next topic, and that is introduce night routines and morning routines into your life. They're so helpful because they help put things on autopilot rather than thinking out at each stage along the way. In the morning when you get up, what do I have to think of now? All right, what am I going to wear today? What do I have to take with me to work when you're in a rush in the morning? Or what do your kids have to pack to take in their school bags in the morning when morning can be a stress? So as a general example, and I help my clients create custom-made routines, night routines and morning routines, but a general type of thing you might want to have for your night routine is to lay out your morning clothes and your kids, to make sure your kids have their clothes laid out for the morning, so that if your morning is stressful, you don't have to take time or activity to do that. You've already thought that out at night. And you might also at night want to take a look at your schedule for the next day so that you remember to pack anything you need to take with you if you're leaving in the morning to work, or to make sure you've signed any permission slips for your children who are going to school in the morning, and make sure that they've packed their bags so that, again, if you're feeling rushed in the morning, you don't have to take extra time because you have a good night routine. You've prepared for your next day with a good night routine. And your morning can go nice and smoothly because you have a morning routine. So everything you need to do to get ready for the day is on autopilot. And again, if you'd like to have some help to create your night and morning routines, feel free to reach out to me. So again, I talked today about a number of strategies that can help you handle your time better. And what's really important about that is if you can handle your time better, you can feel that you're making a better impact in your life. You feel more successful. You feel like you're moving towards your goals better if you handle your time well. And it's my philosophy and my feeling that all people are entitled to a life of joy and success. And because time is such a trigger for stress, it can really create challenges in our lives. And learning to handle time better is one of those skills that can really create a happier life that you feel is more in your control and less out of your control. So again, if you'd like to talk about time with me, or how you handle your tasks or focus or any other topics, I'll try to leave a link to my schedule if you wanted to set up an appointment. We can talk about the topics, and especially if you'd like to investigate working with me directly to improve the skills in your life. And again, as I say, I feel everybody's entitled to a life of joy and success. And in most cases, you're just a skill set away from what you really need to feel more joy and more success in your life. You may know other people who make it look easy. They may have busy lives, but they may make it look easy. And usually they're just a skill set away from where you are. So, again, if you'd like to investigate and discuss further some of the skills that are on your mind, I'm happy. You can make an appointment with me, or you're welcome to reach out to me at my email. I've tried to make that easy. ellenwillhelp@gmail.com. So I'm looking forward to meeting with you and discussing with you if that's something you'd like to do. And in either case, whether or not you'd like to reach out, every week I post a new topic. And I really am very passionate about helping people become their best at work, at home, and in their lives. So next week, I'm going to post another video having to do with a strategy, another strategy that can help you become your best at work, at home, and in your life. So I will ask you two things. One, if you found this helpful, and if you're still with me, I hope that you found it helpful. And if you did find it helpful, I'm going to ask you to click the like button below so other people will know it's helpful. And hit subscribe so that when I come out with other videos, you'll know and you'll benefit. You'll know when I have other topics as well. And if you have any suggestions for topics that you'd like me to discuss and make a video with, feel free to put them in the comments. I will continue to look at the comments. So again, let me know if this is helpful. I really do like to know what people think and how they feel. And certainly if you have any topics you'd like me to discuss, please list them in the topics or feel free to email them to me. And again, I'll post another interesting and important topic next week. So until then, be strong, be empowered, and let's talk again soon.